Welcome back. This is a summary of Chapter 2 of Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. The chapter is titled, Why Teach Financial Literacy? In this chapter, Robert Kiyosaki dives deep into one of the most important yet misunderstood aspects of building wealth, financial literacy. Right from the beginning, Kiyosaki makes a bold statement. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep, and how effectively you make that money work for you. Many people believe that if they just earned more money, their financial problems would go away. But Kiyosaki argues that this is rarely true. He gives real-world examples of people who get raises or win the lottery but end up broke shortly after. Why? Because they lack financial education. Kiyosaki emphasizes that even people with high incomes can remain poor if they don't understand the basics of money management. It's not about income, it's about assets and liabilities. That's the core of this chapter. So what exactly is financial literacy? According to Rich Dad, financial literacy begins with understanding the difference between assets and liabilities, and then buying assets. Here's how he defines them. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. It's that simple. But most people don't see it this way. Kiyosaki explains that the average person buys liabilities thinking they're assets. The most common example. A house. Poor Dad believed buying a house was the ultimate asset. It showed financial stability. But Rich Dad disagreed. He said unless the house is making you money, like a rental property, it's a liability. That's because it costs you money every month through mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, repairs, and utilities. Kiyosaki isn't saying you shouldn't buy a house. He's saying don't confuse personal consumption with investment. If your house is draining your money, it's a liability, even if society tells you it's an asset. This distinction is critical. So how do the rich get richer? Rich Dad taught that the rich focus on acquiring assets first. They build a portfolio of investments that generate passive income, money that comes in without them having to work for it directly. Some examples of true assets include businesses that don't require your presence, real estate that generates rental income, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, royalties from intellectual property like books, music, or patents. Anything else that consistently puts cash into your pocket. The poor and middle class, on the other hand, tend to accumulate liabilities that they think are assets. They buy expensive homes, new cars, or finance things with credit, hoping their income will keep up with their lifestyle. But in doing so, they often become trapped in a cycle. Work, earn, spend, borrow, repeat. Kiyosaki refers to this cycle as the rat race. You get a job, earn money, pay your bills, buy things you think you need, maybe take on debt, and then you have to work even harder to keep up. It's endless. Without financial literacy, it's easy to get stuck in this loop for life. That's why Rich Dad taught Robert from a young age. The key to financial freedom is owning income-generating assets. Let's pause here and revisit the formula that Kiyosaki introduces as a model for financial independence. The rich acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities they think are assets. He explains this concept through a simple illustration of cash flow patterns. The poor have little to no assets, their income is used up by expenses, and there's nothing left to grow. The middle class earn more, but they use their income to buy liabilities, like cars, mortgages, and credit card debt, so money still flows out. The rich, however, use their income to buy assets. The assets generate more income, which they use to buy more assets. This cycle increases their wealth over time. Kiyosaki reinforces the idea that your first goal should be to increase your asset column, not your income. Even when people do earn more, if they lack financial literacy, they just raise their standard of living instead of investing in assets. They buy a bigger house, a nicer car, more toys. The expenses grow, and they're still not financially free. That's why the message of this chapter is clear. If you want to be rich, build your asset column first. Another important point Kiyosaki makes in this chapter is about how we've been conditioned to think that financial education is unnecessary or too complicated. Schools don't teach us about money, not really. We learn how to get a job, how to follow rules, and how to pass exams. But very few people are taught how to read a financial statement, how to evaluate an investment, or how to grow wealth strategically. Rich Dad believed that true education begins when we understand money, when we learn how to think differently about income, spending, saving, and investing. So, what's the takeaway from Chapter 2? Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Don't confuse consumption with investment. Focus on building assets, things that pay you even when you're not working. Be mindful of your spending. Don't just work to earn more, work to buy freedom. And finally, develop your financial intelligence, because without it, even the best income won't make you rich. Kiyosaki reminds us that wealth is not about having money. It's about understanding money. And the first rule is, buy assets. Avoid liabilities. That's the foundation. By the end of Chapter 2, we start to see that the rich aren't just lucky or born into wealth. They think differently. They play a different game, one where financial education is the secret weapon. And that game starts by asking yourself a powerful question. Is what I'm buying putting money into my pocket, or taking it out? That wraps up Chapter 2, Why Teach Financial Literacy? From Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This chapter gives us one of the most important lessons in the entire book. If you want to build lasting wealth, stop working only for money, and start learning how to make money work for you. Start by focusing on your assets. Learn about investing. Track your cash flow. Build a strong financial foundation. And remember, no one is coming to teach you this in school. It's up to you to take control of your financial education. If you found this summary helpful, support the channel. Tap that subscribe button to stay updated with the next chapters. Smash the like button if you're starting to see money differently. And comment below, what's one asset you want to start investing in this year? Next up is Chapter 3, Mind Your Own Business, where we explore how to start thinking like an entrepreneur and why owning your own income stream is the key to long-term financial freedom. Thanks for watching. See you in the next chapter.